Hey guys, Lennis here, and today I'm bringing you a sort of a different video. I'm going to be doing a sort of like pseudo review. So I'm going to be talking about obviously the game that is currently being played in front of you right now, Need for Speed Carbon. Now, what I'm going to be covering in this video is my take on this game, like what are its perks, what are its like strengths, weaknesses, and mainly just talk about the game in general. So I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'm going to be probably doing some stuff in the background as I talk. I might just go a bit off topic at some points. Alright, so Need for Speed Carbon was released around 9 years ago, 2006. So quite an old game, but actually one of my favourite Need for Speed. It's different. I'd say it's one of my preferred Need for Speed titles. It's probably a better word for it. So obviously I first played this around, I think it was like 2007, 2008, so a couple of years after its release. I didn't play it when it first was released, but in the end it's probably still one of my top 4 favourite Need for Speed, maybe top 5 Need for Speed games. The others being the original Underground's Most Wanted and the 2012 Hot Pursuit. So the main reason for this is because this is one of the original Need for Speeds I grew up with, and it feels that some of the more recent titles, such as like Pro Street, I know some of these are still slightly old, like Pro Street, Undercover, and all those ones, even the new Rivals. Well, not so much Rivals, The Run, another good example. I just don't get the same vibe that they are good games. They just didn't seem to have as much of the charm or in-depth customization as these ones did. So the main thing with this one particularly is that it's a good game, but in a way it still just doesn't measure up to some of the earlier ones. Like Underground 2 and Most Wanted are still considered some of my top 2 favourite Need for Speed games. So I thought I might just talk a little bit about the campaign first. So, Need for Speed Carbon. First thing you do, you're starting off, it's a sequel to Need for Speed Most Wanted, so you're driving through the canyons in the BMW M3 GTR, the hero car. You drive through, across from Need for Speed Most Wanted busts you. It's about to collect his bounty on your head, which is about 150k or whatever it was. And Darius, who is the final boss of the game, decides to save you as long as you work for him and taking out the other crews in the city. So yeah, so far so good. This does mean you have to choose one of 3 cars: the Alfa Romeo Brunner, the Mazda RX-8, or the Chevrolet Camaro. It's a good start, and you're also introduced to a couple of new features, such as the crew member system. Interesting idea, but usually I try and race with it off. I just don't really see the point of it, considering racing the AI in this game is not exactly the hardest challenge I've ever had. Usually I don't even have to use notch, so I just keep one hand at my side. Or even sometimes in like some of the easiest races, I just even like text on my phone. The AI is not challenging, and there's no way to edit this. And of course I'm talking that this is a 9-year-old game, so it's quite possible I didn't think of that, and there was in later games. But even so, after a while you just kind of get, well, after the first couple of races, it depends where you start off on. So you might start off in downtown Kempton or in Fortuna. So if you chose exotic, you start in Fortuna. If you chose the Alfa Romeo, you'd start in Fortuna. If you start with the Mazda RX-8, you'd start in downtown, and if you chose the Chevrolet Camaro, you'd start in Kempton. So what happens then is that you are tasked to defeat the local crews. So in Kempton it's 21st Street, downtown it's Bushido, and in Fortuna it's TFK. The one thing I do like, it's a different ideal to what happened in Most Wanted, where you just get three races or whatever, starting with like Sunny, for example. You have 3 races, 3 milestone events, and you just do whatever you want so you can challenge them. Here it's a bit different. You have to take over the territories by taking over at least 2 of the 3 races of each territory. So as you can see, there are like, in some cases there's 3 ticks. Some there might be one purple purple race in a star. So basically, tick ones the ones you've done, and your main aim is to just do at minimum 2 out of 3 races for each territory, and this would mean you eventually take over the territory. You face the boss, blah 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 blah. You race them in a circuit race, and then you race them in the canyon in a canyon duel. Cool idea. Kind of like the canyon duels. They're probably my preferred events in this game, so it's certainly a lot of fun for me. Obviously, this game is not perfect. The one thing I don't like is sort of the passiveness of territory control, because not only is it TFK Bushido and 21st Street and Stacked Deck to an extent, there's other minor crews. There's Los Colibres, Blackhearts, Kings, Inferno, Rota 4, and Scorpios. They're all the minor crews who will occasionally take some of your races, and will attempt to try and race for them. Now the problem is that at the beginning of the game, there are I need to go back to the map for this. So which one is it? Historic Chinatown is held by Los Colibres, for example, and Mason District was held by Kings at the beginning of the game. Kings does not attack anyone, so pretty much as soon as you defeat Kings, or another crew defeats Kings, they're out for good from the game entirely. All the other crews, Los Colibres, Blackhearts from the Projects, Scorpios from Morgan Beach, Rota 4 from Fortuna Heights, and Inferno from South Fortuna, they will all try and attempt to take certain races off you. But the problem is that they don't seem to take many more of your territory. In a way, they don't try and take 2 from your territory. So, say for example, Kings Park. It's currently held by me, but if, say, Rota 4 attacks me, and I decide not to defend it, then it would become under their control, and it would become like, come on, that one, for example, which is held by Black Hearts, for example. So, what I would have wanted out of the AI is that if, say, like I just said, for example, Rota 4 took Kings Park, a couple of races later they'd attempt to say, okay, now we want to take, say, Garden Boulevard or Devil's Creek Pass. So they actually hold that territory of Billings Park, which would make sense. It would, not Billings Park, Kings Park. What am I talking about? Isn't it? It's Kings Park. Yeah, Kings Park. And it would just seem a bit more push and pull. And only the minor crews attack your races if you hold them. Whereas, say, all the major crews, Bushido, TFK, 21st Street, Stacked Deck, don't attack any races you hold. So it kind of gives the weird vibe that the major crews are sort of content with you taking over their races and them not doing anything with it, which seems a bit redundant. So I just don't really see the point in that. Obviously the minor crews thing is a cool idea, but the only real way for them to actually take over new territories, say Los Colibres lose historic Chinatown, but then they come back, where you get the situation where in, say, Billings District, I'm holding the sprint race, it's mine, Bushido was holding the speed trap race, and then, say, drift race was held by, I don't know, another Bushido. You get the idea where Blackhearts may take my race, the sprint race, I decide to relinquish it, Blackhearts takes it. But then Blackhearts also attacks one of the speed trap race or the drift race. So that would mean Blackhearts takes that territory. But they don't seem to consecutively take your races, which seems silly. So they're not really... They'll take random races. So where's... Camelot? No. Starlight Strip. Good example. Los Colibres currently holds it. But Los Colibres may attack another race. But there's how many races in total? There's 21 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16. So that's what? 48. 69 races. 69. Correct me if my math's wrong. But it's random. They will take any other race apart from the ones that are locked. Like, for example, the circuit race in Old Quarter, the circuit race in Ocean View, or the circuit race in Kempton Holdings, or the sprint race in Neon Mile. They can't take those ones. So it just seems silly that they don't coordinate attacks, which I think EA sort of missed the point. They should have made it a bit more aggressive in terms of territory control. Not so much aggressive in the races, but more aggressive to try and take territories back. Because only very rarely will they actually hold a turf again, any minor crew. Once they lose the ones they had at the start of the game, they pretty much won't have any other territories whatsoever. So that was a bit of a hit and miss. The next thing I want to talk about was the cars. Good variety. Obviously they took out a couple of cars from the original formula. Well, I'm talking Need for Speed Most Wanted. They obviously took a couple of cars out because they didn't have the licensing rights or whatnot. And they certainly added a few more cars in. They added in more muscle cars as opposed to just tuners and exotics from Most Wanted. I'm talking more classical cars, so like Camaro, Charger, Challenger. They brought some of those in. The one thing, it just seems a bit, like, I know mods can be used to replace cars that you don't want, but I don't know, I think it more comes down to the tier system. The tier system was implemented, so like you start with a tier 1 car, and if you want to keep continuing, you'll need to get a tier 2 car for, like say, for where you start, say you start the tuner career again, I get to keep coming back to the map. If you started in downtown and you chose the Mazda RX-8, you take over that territory, you win, it's yours, like the whole thing. If you want to then attack, say, Kempton or Fortuna, you would have to get a tier 2 car, because that's when the difficulty bumps up from tier 1 races to tier 2 races. But this is the same for whichever path you start from. You might start with exotic, you start in Fortuna, then downtown and Kempton races will be tier 2 from that point on, which makes sense. It's got to ratchet up the difficulty somewhat, but the thing is, you're not really left wanting for more of a challenge. If you want a challenge, you'll try using your tier 1 car max against tier 2 cars, which is actually quite challenging, or in the same case using tier 2 cars against tier 3 cars in Silverton, which offers more of a challenge, but in a way, when you upgrade to a tier 2 car or you upgrade to a tier 3 car, there isn't really much challenge there. So, in a way, the difficulty doesn't really ramp up at all like it should on a graph. It just stays flat, which I find a bit sad, really, because going back to Most Wanted, the difficulty was pretty much always constantly ramping up, but you could keep the same car throughout the whole career. If you started with Chevrolet Cobalt, you could use that all the way up to Razor and win the game with it, which is what I did. Whereas here, you can't stick with the same car for the whole game. It doesn't work. So you would have to get a new car at some point. So, in a way, I kind of like it that it kind of forces you to have to get a new car, as opposed to just, I'll just stay with the same car for the whole game, and it doesn't really let you experience, like, give yourself a bit more effort. Another thing I'll rag on about, though, is the amount of money you earn from each race. So the main thing with that is that in the first couple of races you'll earn like $2,500, or $5,000. It seems small enough for your start off, for like your starting performance pass. But then obviously you move on to the next, and you have to start getting more money. But the thing is that the money itself, because when you replay races, the most you can get, the absolute max you can get from a race you already own, like say this star on the map right here, the one that's in front of me. If I redid this race right now, how much would I get? I'd get $500. That's not a lot. That's really not a lot, and you can't get anything out of that. But if I was racing I had the crew members, so I had Neville, who gives you what is it? It's a $200 bonus for each race, if he's holding in your crew. And if you also race with one of the other crew members, Samson, and he is racing with you in that race, he gives you a 10% bonus in money. So if I raced with Samson, and not in this one, this is Race Wars, can't race with a crew member, but if I raced in any other race, apart from Drift, if I raced in a sprint race, or a circuit race, or a speed track race with Samson, and it was a race I'd already done, the most I could get was $750, which by equivalent is about the same amount of money I earned by beating one of Sonny's races in Need for Speed Most Wanted, Blacklist 15. That's nothing. That's really nothing. And the most you earn, like the highest race, the highest amount you can win in one race is the final boss sprint race in Desperation Ridge, which is 50 grand. That's great. But really, most of the stuff you don't get a lot of money for. So money really is so hard to come by, and especially when you're going for some of the reward cards, which will be something I rag on a bit later. But the reward cards, like say for filling up your whole garage with tuner cars, you will barely have enough money to do so, and you'd have to grind races to do it. Another one, the reward card that gave me the most strife was the one where you have to have $1 million in the bank. Are you serious? $1 million in your bank? I did some maths. Apparently the most you can earn through the whole career, and this is taking into account that you only use the first car that you buy, which if you were smart you'd use the Alfa Romeo Brera because it is the most expensive at 40 grand. I think plus the amount of, if you did every single race, didn't upgrade your car whatsoever, you'd probably only earn about $750,000. But if you started with the Alfa Romeo Brera, if you wanted to maximize your money, you'd have to go to Kempton first. So you get Samson, which then you'd apply him for every race you can, so you get the 10% bonus. But you still wouldn't get very much. You'd have to grind. You'd have to grind at some point. And that's what I don't like about this game, is that you have to grind for money. If you wanted to get money for in Most Wanted, once you beat the game, you'd be able to just face like some of Rameses races again. You get 25 grand every time you win. Whereas here, you're stuck getting $500 for every race that you win, which isn't a lot. You're not going to get anywhere if you want to go for reward cards. So that was another bit of a miss for me. So obviously there's a lot of stuff I don't like. Also, the bosses are completely unlikable. Angie, Wolf, Kenji, they're all bad. I don't really like them. Whereas some of the other bosses, say like Most Wanted, I liked because they had some like interesting character traits or whatnot. Whereas here, they're all a bit generic. And even Darius, you kind of expect him because you can see him as a bad guy, and I just don't really like him as much. He isn't as good a villain, I think, as Razor was. So you may be listening and hearing that I'm comparing this to Most Wanted quite a lot. And I'm sure this is a year later, but the thing is that you draw so many comparisons between this one and Most Wanted that it's kind of sad really that you're a year on, and in a way the game got slightly worse because they just made some rookie errors, like the money thing. The reward cards is a nice idea, but it means that you have to grind for money to get certain achievements. But probably my biggest gripe is the fact that police chases are now no longer necessary. Police chases were a big part of Need for Speed Most Wanted. You had to be in police chases to get to face rivals. Whereas in Carbon, you can get through the whole game without being in a single pursuit. You don't have to race, you don't have to be in any pursuits whatsoever, which seems silly. It's like, sure, it's present, as you saw earlier in this video, I was in a police chase, but it takes such a core mechanic of the game and makes it something on the side, which seems, well, it's a step back. So I like the game, I do, but it made some errors that just can't be overlooked, and the fact is that it's just not as good as the previous two titles, Underground 2 and Most Wanted. So it had big shoes to fill after Underground, and of course Most Wanted cut back a little bit because it introduced new cars, but it made more bosses, and it cut back on the vinyls, but it brought police chases to the mix. Carbon tried to juggle, I think Carbon tried to juggle too many balls as opposed to just enough like Most Wanted did. They had to push, because they had the territory control mechanic, they had to take the cop chases and make it to the left, make it to the side. It wasn't necessary. But sorry, I just need to do something. So it just makes it a bit redundant, really, and it just doesn't compare to the earlier games. Obviously, you still get a big city, but I still don't like it as much as some of the other Need for Speed cities. Like, Rockport was better, Bayview was better, even Olympic City was probably better. So, it all just begs the question, was Need for Speed Carbon worth your money? And honestly, even after playing this for so long, like, I've played this quite a few times trying to get like achievements, well not so much achievements, but like the reward cards. I have done it, I've gotten 100% completion in this game before, but in a way I just don't think it's had the same impact on me as Most Wanted did, and it just left me wanting more. Because once you finish the game, there isn't really much else to do. Once you take over every single race in the city, that's it. Oh sure, you can shoot for the reward cards, but that's really it. The challenge series in this game also didn't compare to the Most Wanted one. You had 68 events or 69 or 70 or whatever it was, including the Burger King Challenge and the Black Edition Challenge in Most Wanted. Whereas this one only has about 20, not 21, maybe like 35, maybe, possibly, I'm not sure. But certainly there wasn't as a lot. Sure, it changed it slightly, allowing like sprint, speed trap, other kinds of races in the challenge series as opposed to just time trials and police escapes. But it just didn't... Everything in Need for Speed Carbon just seems like it was just a bit further down the scale than... It was below the bar, that's probably the best word. It was below the bar of what Most Wanted had set. So, damn it, that didn't work. Guess I didn't do it just as well as I'd hoped. Oh well. Obviously there's like glitches and stuff, and I was trying to do that one so I could go to the canyons. But that's probably my favourite thing about this is the canyons. The canyons were amazing, and it really left me like enthralled. I loved whenever I had a canyon race to do. I was so excited, and I just say, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Canyon duels were probably the best thing about this game, honestly. The canyon duels were the best, hands down, for me personally. So,
units monitoring. A suspect wanted in connection with assault PO has
in a way, I know I'm probably ragging on and going over the same things, but I just wanted to get it off my chest. That the fact that the game just left me wanted, and yes, don't say in the comments that I'm a cheater. Yes, I know I used a thingy to get like an Audi Le Mans and a BMW in the original game. Oh, that's odd. Okay, something's missing. Oh, never mind. But it's just silly, I think. Or maybe I did sell it. But in the end, the game just left me, in a way, it just didn't give me the same impact. Like the rap sheet, for example, in Most Wanted was amazing because he was still shooting to try and get some of those more professional achievements or whatever. So let's just do a quick count. 3, 6, 9, 12, 6, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36, 39, 42, 45. 45 events. It's a fair amount, but it's usually when games need to do more and more as opposed to just less. So I guess I do have to give a sort of I have to give it Need for Speed Carbon, it gets a recommendation. but it's just not as good as the earlier ones. Need for Speed Most Wanted, Need for Speed Underground 2 is obviously still like the pinnacle. You can't get really much better than Underground 2 was. So out of 10, this game would probably get from me about a 6.5 out of 10. Obviously this is my opinion, but as I said, there's so much that it kind of took out of Need for Speed Most Wanted and made it to the side, like the police chases. The reward cards were a nice idea, but I don't think it really just took off the way it should have. Because some of the things you can't actually get at all. Like, I'll just go to the reward cards quickly. Where is it? Reward cards. So, yeah, I've glitched it, so I know I've unlocked everything. But this was the big deal for me. The online exclusive rewards. If you can't play the game online, you can see that this stuff is available. Could be yours. Like there's the Infernal Vinyl, Rotor 4, like crew vinyls, even cars, like the Toyota MR2. This stuff will never be available to you because you can't play online, and this is 9 years later, so obviously the servers are not up and running anymore. So you can't get these items anymore. So the only way to actually use these things is to use a trainer to oh, I don't want that. So that's another thing I don't like, is that they made the online feature sort of central to unlocking certain things, which seems really dumb. It was a bad move. So yeah, I guess I'm ragging on a bit too much. So let's just recap. Police chases, not a good idea to make them to the side. What else was there? There was the so might be having a bit of a trying to think. What else did I say? Territory control was a good idea, but it was a bit flawed. Expansive car list. Yeah, it was an expansive car roster. And really, yeah, 6.5 out of 10 is probably my final score. It could have scored higher. Like Most Wanted is probably higher than that, and Underground 2 is way up there, way higher than this. And yeah, I guess it's just something that, in a way, you just had to play it to see for yourself. And you may like it, you may not. If you're not a racing game fan, then yeah, sure. But I know this probably hasn't been like a professional review. This has just been me trying to get some stuff off my chest, because there's been stuff that's like been bothering me about the game this whole time. And I just thought I'd just tell you guys what was going through my mind about it. I might be doing something similar for Underground 2 Most Wanted. We'll see. But just another quick announcement. The Midnight Club 2 Deluxe Edition walkthrough is still going ahead. It's probably going to be the first series I ever complete that is not a Flash game. So I'm going to continue doing that. Obviously I still need to record the next episodes or whatnot. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this sort of rant, sort of talkative attitude on Need for Speed Carbon. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.